Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another beautiful video on this beautiful channel, on this beautiful day. How you guys and girls doing? Hope you're doing great as always. Please check out the description box for all the nice links. Also drop a like, subscribe if you like the content. So from the last video we had a few errors and a few weird things happening. Basically just small stuff. You want to have a not equals or not sign here, okay? Because this pretty much is just a boolean, returns if it was successful. This is for it not being successful. So I missed this. That's why we got this error message, even if it loaded. So just make sure you have this sign here. And then in the fragment shader itself, everything is fine except for this part down here. So basically, there's two stuff. You don't want if statements pretty much in what do you call it? In shaders. So you pretty much don't want a lot of these. That's why I don't have any if statements here. This is pretty much necessary for me because I want to make sure we have one shader to render everything that doesn't have a sprite and stuff that does have a sprite. So to kind of fix that, what I'm going to do is anything that doesn't have a sprite is just pretty much going to be GL color. So that is the color that comes from the outside into the shader, for example, for rectangle shapes and stuff. But if you have a texture, it's pretty much going to be a sprite. And then you want to just use this and multiply everything with lighting. So this is what you can think. You don't have to kind of complicate it for yourself just yet. This is the lighting part. This is the texture color. And this is the inert color. So pretty much these three things together are going to complete the whole image. And obviously we have to set this to true from outside. And now we're just going to take a look at these. So I'm still not going to explain the shader just yet, because we probably need our own video for that, one whole video for that. But just to get the player rendering using the shader, it has been working. It's just that we need to kind of set those before we render this. So here we're going to say shader, and we're going to use something called set uniform. So you kind of find the uniform using a text string, whatever it's called in here, and you set it with a value. So that's how you set stuff from the outside. So we're pretty much going to say has texture is true. Okay. Since this will have a texture. And every time you render something like this with a shader, you need to set all the stuff before for that object. Okay. That's why we're going to do it multiple times for everything we need to render. Now let's look at has texture and light position. So it's basically those two things. This is not something we need to set. This is something coming from the vertex shader being passed onwards to the fragment shader. Remember, I said these work in steps. Vertex shader is always first, and then it sends all its data over to the graphics card for processing the rest of the data for the to the next step, or it sends stuff over to the fragment shader, which is one of the last steps actually. But anyway, enough of the details right now. Let's just say light pos like that. And it's going to be a vector 2. It's very important. A vector 2, which is a position. And then we're going to have to give it a position here. But we don't have a good position to give, since we have a get position, but that's the top left corner. We don't want that. We want a central position, the center of a player or an entity. So we're going to make a new function here called get center, and you want to remove the ampersand because we're going to be returning a copy here, since you'll see why. It's not that big of a deal, but you do the get center, and it doesn't want to let me define that just like I want to. So I'm just going to copy that, go to get position. I might just copy the whole get position because it's pretty much the same thing. Just remove the ampersand, don't forget that. Get center. Okay, so if we have a hitbox component, we're going to get the position plus, okay, the size of it. So this hitbox component get global bounds dot width divided by 2.f. And this is going to have to be SF vector 2f. Like that. I'm just going to put that down there. Okay, SF vector 2f. Pretty much like that. And then we're just going to copy this whole thing again. Put it right below. Remove the little comma there. And then height. So pretty much we're taking the position, adding it with half of the size of the hitbox component. So that will give us the center position. Okay? But if we don't have a... if we don't have... What do you call it? A hitbox component. We're going to have to do the same thing with sprite. So plus this sprite dot get global bounds. We can just pretty much copy this actually. Plus the whole vector2f thingy. Like this. Like that. You know, that whatever, however you want to write this. And instead of hitbox component, we're just going to say this sprite get global bounds. And it's not a pointer, so you probably want to do a dot there. Like that. Now we can get the center point from this. Now the idea is that I want the light to originate from our player. Okay, so the light's gonna pretty much follow our player around. So we can still leave these here. Let's just go in here, and the light position is gonna be itself get center. Okay, so it's pretty much just gonna be itself. And if I run this now, hopefully these uniforms should be set and this shader should be used. And if it's null, it won't really matter. Okay, so we'll see. We're seeing our player here. We don't get any shader errors. So that's good. That's good. To test that it's working, I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of this. And like I did in the last video, I'm just going to say vec4, which is a 4-point vector. Usually color is set in 4 floats, right? So 1, 0, 0, 1. So the last one is alpha. And 1 is the max value. Not, okay, there you go. So the whole box is now filled red, all right? That's exactly what we wanted to see. And you're like, why isn't only the texture red? Well, remember, we're sending in the texture. It's a little complicated, but basically you get texture coordinates from this line here. Okay, where the pixels of the texture are. Each color of that texture is set here using the texture coordinates. But pretty much the whole texture is a big box, so every point in that texture is basically gonna be red if you just use that frag color. Anyway, not to complicate things because I can't really explain them properly yet. Not to complicate them too much, we're just gonna leave these alone still. Don't worry, don't think about them too much. Just know that they're there. Get them from GitHub or copy the code right here. Pause the video, copy the code. Okay, there you go. But there you go. At least the player is working. Now we need to make sure tile can be working with these. All right, so I'm just going to open up tile.h and tile.cpp. And we're going to start off and do pretty much the same thing here. So render. And then we're going to give it a SF shader pointer shader equals null. And copy that. Go in here. Put it right after render. Okay, there you go. And now we need to send in a position to use for the shader. A position to use, since the shader is going to require that player position. I might just send in the player's position here. But the default value is kind of messing me up. I'm going to remove that right there. Let's start off with this anyway. Shader. Okay. Target. Sorry about that. Target. All right. And then we're going to set a position here. Let's go in here instead. Okay. SF vector 2f. Like that. And then we're just going to give it a player position. Like that. Copy this whole thing. Put it right after. I usually don't want the shader last. I want it to be after target, but since I have a point here, you know what we could do? Let me think. Since I really don't like this. I really don't like having my shader last here. I'm gonna give this a default value as well. Equals 2f. Like that. Just the default 2f 0 0. Nothing special. So that's good. That's good. You know, we'll keep it like that. Sorry about that. Sorry you had to make extra code. Write some extra code there. But there you go. Pretty much just do it like this, and you'll have your player position. All right. Now let's just set the shader, set uniform. We could just copy that from player actually. Where do we have player CPP? Let's just copy these because it's exactly the same thing. Like this. The only thing here is going to be player position. That's all you're going to send it. And then you're going to render your shape with the shader. Now your tile map's probably going to complain. So I'm going to open up tilemap.h as well. And then tilemap CPP. And pretty much it's going to complain right down here. Or it's probably not going to complain because you have default values. But we're going to run. Let's just see if that works even with null. Since the shader is null, it might just crash everything. Yeah, it just crashed everything. Okay, so we pretty much want if shader. Just copy that in there. Else, let's render this just regularly without the shader. Okay, go ahead and do the same thing in player then, because then player is probably also going to mess up. If shader, go ahead and do that. Oops. Else, render the sprite without the shader. Okay, so if I render this now, hopefully it should work. Yeah, it's working. All right, cool. Now to keep moving on my tile map, I need to send in shader and the player position. Okay, so I'm just gonna send in shader and player position. And it's not gonna just work just yet. You're gonna have to chill with me a minute. This is just a render, right? Then there's a render deferred where I also want to send in those two. Okay, very good, very good. If shader, else, I'm just gonna render it perfectly regularly without the shader, like this. All right, same thing here. If shader, else without the shader, like that. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna have to send in the shader here. SF shader. Let's copy it. Let's copy this right here. The whole thing. It's gonna be exactly the same, so you don't have to worry about it. Just copy that, paste it in there. And go ahead and do the same thing in the H file. Like that. But here we're going to set the default values to null. And why are you complaining? I know. Oh yeah, I know. I know. SF vector 2f. Default value. Okay. So once that's done, your tile map and everything should be ready to go. We just need to paste that in here as well. So we got the show collision render. Let's see how that looks. We already got a bunch of these. So, oh yeah, this needs to be const as well. God damn it, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Just copy that, put the const in front of all of these player position right there. Const. Okay, tile as well. God damn it. Sorry about that. Tile.cpp. Const. Okay, const. Everything is const. Good, good. So we're gonna have to put these in here, like I said, in tilemap.h. Let's just put those. Like I said, I don't want to put shader. I'm just gonna put them right there. Okay, I don't even care. I'm just gonna put them right there. But that, that kind of makes it weird for me. Hold up, give me a second. Maybe this is gonna have to be at the end, or at least over here. Yeah, it has to be after this grid position, because that can't be null or have a default value. So pretty much gonna have to do it like this, and then equal the player position. Let me just do this for you guys like that, so we can see what we're working with. There you go. So that's our different values. Like this. All right, so this is gonna be null. Whoops. Soon. Whoopsie daisy. No, that's correct. All right, so this is gonna be null, and this player position is going to be a vector 2f. So I'm just gonna copy this, and player position vector 2f. Okay, so once you got that done, we have all our default values set. Now all we have to do is set it in here. So let me just copy this again. God damn. Like that. And let's put it, what was it, after grid position? Okay. Like that. Since we have so many, you know what we gotta do? We gotta do this so you can see what's going on. All our different values and stuff. Parameters. Okay, so there you go. Boom. All this stuff is ready to go. Let's run this. Let's get all the errors out of the way. All right, error list. Okay, it doesn't take... Wait, what was this? Tile map render? Let's see how I did that again. Okay, target grid position. Okay, yeah. Show, okay. It's annoying. But okay, mouse position, then we're gonna have to give it null. The editor, you know, we're just gonna have to SF vector 2f. We're just gonna have to give it the default values here in the editor, because the editor is kind of we don't need that right now. Now in the game state, this is where it's important. I gotta send in stuff where I'm rendering. So go down to where you're rendering your tile map. Here. Okay, tile map. You get the grid position. You get that. Okay, and then we're gonna do this core shader with the render. Let's see. This core shader. I know this is a really long video, guys. I'm sorry. Hopefully you're sticking with me here. This core shader. Reference. Or no, ampersand for the address. And then we got to give it this player get center. Okay. And this core shader. Hopefully this is working. Yeah. All right. This core shader get center. And then deferred as well. Got to do the same thing. Render texture. This core shader. No, god damn it. All right, getting frustrated here. This player gets center. Okay, render texture, blah blah blah. All right, let's run this. Hopefully no errors. And okay, something is working at least. And you know why it's not working? Final thing, guys, final thing. Hopefully you're with me. Hopefully you're with me here to the end. We got to go into tile.cpp or h, okay? We got to change this to sprite, because I need to tell you something. The rectangle shape is very weird with shaders, all right? It just messes up. I don't know why. It's very strange. You should read up on it on SFML's homepage, but it just doesn't work. So we're going to need to use a sprite. And that means we can't have set size and all that stuff. But that should be fine since the textures are the correct size. Just make sure it looks like this. And let's run this again. And new game. All right, now we have light around our player. Okay. Whew, that was a long video. Hopefully you stuck with me throughout all this. Hopefully you can get the code running properly. In the next video, I'm going to explain the fragment shader, and we're going to go through exactly what we did once more. But remember these. All right. Remember the all the parameters and stuff. Make sure that you get them right. If you don't, go ahead, go into GitHub and try to get everything as right as you can. Just copy paste the code. Make sure everything looks like this. Make sure your fragment shaders, pause the video, make sure 100% that your fragment shaders look like this and your vertex shader looks like this. Okay, just make sure all the code matches, because then you're going to get lighting working properly. But there you go, guys and girls. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Very long video, but with some trial and error, we got it to work. So thank you so much for watching. Take care. Keep working hard. And I'll see you guys and girls in the next one, all right? Bye-bye.